Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, biz talk for biz owners. If you're ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward, this show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
All right, welcome to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth. And I'm going to ask for a quick poll here of everyone that's watching or listening. If you feel stress on a regular basis, raise your hand. Oh my gosh, I see everybody raising their hand. Even the people I can't see, I can see. I can sense it. I can sense it, right? Especially coming off, we just got through the holidays, etc. Some stress, good stuff during the holidays typically. Also some stress that goes along with that. You get some seasonal stress depending where you are and the climate where you live. If you're, have a lot of gloomy days and things like that, that induces stress, seasonal disorder stress type stuff. Well, we're going to talk about how to reduce stress. And then as an aftershoot of that, by reducing stress, we're going to increase our productivity. So this week, our guest is none other than Monique Verpoort. She is a registered social worker trainer and certified emotional freedom techniques practitioner. It's a mouthful. We're going to talk about that. EFT tapping. We're going to talk about that. I hadn't heard of it, and that's why I'm really intrigued to talk to her today. She has worked in the field of children's mental health for close to 20 years. She wants to start when she was like 6. Her experience working with both clients and professionals, as well as doing her own personal work over the years, has provided her with a unique perspective on the way in which self-regulation tools, such as EFT, coupled with focused action, got to have action, can transform limiting beliefs into positive transformation and a life of unexplored possibility at any age. Monique, welcome to Mr. Biz Radio.
Thank you very much, Ken. Great to be here.
Yeah. So before we get into all this, everyone needs to reduce stress. I'm sure everyone would. I was kind of being facetious at the beginning there, but I don't know anyone who doesn't say, hey, I feel stress on a regular basis, right? It's just part of life, unfortunately. But before we get into all that, let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneur journey. What in your career journey, what brought you to what you do now?
Okay. Yes, great question. Well, in terms of my entrepreneurial journey, I have, as you mentioned, been working in the area of children's mental health. Always been very, very motivated, and I've been on a mission to sort of help kids and families be able to regulate their own emotions, especially, kids who have difficulties with behavior issues that are kind of, ostracized at school or don't experience success. And, something, a tool that can really help them sort of access what's going on for them, what is driving those behaviors, and how parents can best support their kids in terms of, remaining calm themselves, because we know if a parent's all stressed out, the kid's going to get stressed out, and it just exacerbates the problem. So that's sort of been the focus of the area that I've been interested in over the years. And then I would say about 12 years ago, I happened to be on the internet, and I was looking for a modality that called EMDR, that really works with sort of the brain and how you can work through trauma by using different eye movements. And in that search, I came across EFT, or emotional freedom techniques, or we also call it EFT tapping. And it really intrigued me because I was already very aware of the mind, body, spirit connection, and also this whole, energy part of us, because we're not just flesh and bones. We've got spirit, and we've got our life force that keeps us on the planet, right, moving through us, and that we can regulate tools. We have tools that can actually reconnect us to ourselves and balance these flows, thanks to what we know from the traditional Chinese medicine of 5,000 years ago. So that was part of that, and I became so intrigued by it. And I started using it on myself. I started following some key industry people that were providing lots of information. And then I had some personal crises. And because I had this tool, I was able to use it and really reduce my stress level and just emotions that were really keeping me in a really ugly place. And then I became certified in it, and then I became a practitioner in it. So I kind of have one leg in both worlds, and my day job, but I also have a limited pool of clients I like to see on the side. And then I became an author because I said, I can't I can't keep this for myself. Like the world needs to know this tool because it is just so remarkably effective. And so that became my crusade. And that's where I am now. Writing my book, in the last couple of years, and then trying to promote it is really sort of my crusade here, because like I said, I think it's life-changing. I really do believe that. It's not just another stress reduction tool. This has the potential to really transform somebody's life for the better.
Yeah, well, so, again, that's one of the reasons I want to have you on the show is, I know when you and I talked a few months back about you coming on the show, you had mentioned, well, I've typically worked with children in the past. And I said, in my head, I was thinking, well, guess what? This applies to adults as well. These children that don't learn some of these techniques and correct some of these things, maybe correction is the wrong, too harsh of a word, but don't rectify some of this behavior and learn some of these techniques, become adults who, and again, it just probably amplifies, right? As a child, when you have limited stressors, I don't want to downplay the stresses that kids go through nowadays and teenagers, et cetera. But as an adult, it doesn't get easier, right? Now you've got maybe children of your own, you may have a spouse, you have bills, you have a job, you have a boss, you have all these different things. So the stressors in your life don't necessarily lessen as you get older. So learning how to deal with those is extremely important for children. But even if you haven't, as you mentioned, unexplored possibility at any age. Mm-hmm. And so I should mention that as well. So the book she's referencing the title is That All There Is? Living a Life Beyond Obligation. And so again, it ties into what we're talking about here. And we're going to get into, so I'm really, we don't want to talk about it right now. We'll talk about it in the next segment, but the idea of EFT tapping, what it is. And I like it's acupuncture without needles. Mm-hmm. I'm very curious to hear about what the heck that is, because I purposely didn't, I was going to look it up when I was doing show prep. And I'm like, no, I want to be surprised just like the listeners and viewers of the show at the same time. But I guess what prompted you, I always like to ask authors, what prompted you to write the book? Like, was it just did you have an epiphany moment, or was this an accumulation of thoughts that you said, man, I got to get this into a book form?
Yeah, it was an accumulation of all those things. For starters, I was listening into conversations I heard a lot of women having about how stressed out they were with, sort of the overburden of, caregiving, but other responsibilities, work, starting a business, just, feeling like they're responsible for everybody around them and their happiness, which women often do feel, men too, but women, because we're kind of conditioned, like we take care of people, right? Look at our institutions, our hospitals, who's our senior residences, who is mostly in there? It's women. And so often we take on, and I just wanted women and men everywhere to know that, hey, there's a tool that can really help you work through this stuff. And as I said, I had experience an unexpected crisis in my life where it had to do with being there for everybody else. But hey, guess who lost your place in line, So.
Well,
yeah.
It resonates with me, Monique, because I'll tell you, Mrs. Biz, obviously a female, as well as she's a nurse. Mm. So it's just amplified. The caring aspect, the taking care of everyone else aspect of things is amplified. And I'm not the husband who's like, this is a wife's job, this is a man's job. Like, I'm helping out, right? And so sometimes it gets to be, a little bit frustrating. All right, we got to hit a break here. We'll come back. We'll continue talking with Monique Verpoort, and we'll talk about EFT.
If you would like to reach hundreds of thousands of business owners every week, Mr. Biz Radio can help. Our show airs globally 7 days a week for more than 25 hours across several internet radio stations, plus 20 plus podcast platforms. Also, video exposure on the new exclusive Mr. Biz Network streaming channel, which gets blasted to 100 plus streaming platforms, and the Mr. Biz YouTube channel, and our 350,000 social media followers multiple times every week. Join Mr. Biz Nation as an advertiser by emailing us at info@MrBizSolutions.com.
Are you ready to automate your business? Automation is the key to scaling a business and building wealth. It's also one of the most difficult things for a small business owner to do on their own. If you're looking for help with automation, Pulse Technology CRM can help. We have an exclusive offer for Mr. Biz Nation. We will build everything for free, even if it's a sophisticated funnel. Visit thepulsespot.com/Mr. Biz for this exclusive offer.
Got a question for Mr. Biz you want answered on air? Email it to info@MrBizSolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. It's time for Mr. Biz tip of the week. And this week's tip is, some people have been curious about the book, which this book, Don't Fake the Funk, and my SMAC formula, SMAC. And what is the S in SMAC, in the acronym SMAC, with the formula for achieving massive goals? The S is actually starting with yes. And what that means is you have to have the right mindset before you attack any goal, anything you want to achieve in life. You have to have the right mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, you might get going. You're probably going to slip up, right? Because you got to make sure you have the right mindset. You can't say, well, maybe, kind of, sort of. You got to commit. You got to start with yes. You got to say, I'm going to do this. And this applies to a lot of different areas of life. If you want to repair a relationship, you can't say, well, sure, I'll try. No, I say all the time, do or do not. Actually, I didn't say that. Yoda said that from Star Wars. You got to commit. You got to start with yes. And I find this one of the things that's key to this. It works in the business world, works in all aspects of life, as I mentioned. But, when you have an employee who comes to you with an idea, how do you respond to it? When they say something, it might sound a little off the wall to start. Oh my gosh, let's move the drive-through lane to the other side of the building. And you go, that's silly. We're not going to do that. Hear it out. Start with yes. The answer may end up being no, but hear them out. Maybe it ends up being a really good idea, even though on the surface it sounds crazy. So that's the S in the SMAC formula for achieving massive goals. Again, we're talking this week with Monique Verpoort. You can find out more at her website, MoniqueVerpoort.com. That's Verpoort is Verpoort, 2 O's. And so, Monique, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about EFT tapping. I mentioned this in the last segment, but acupuncture without needles. Mm-hmm. I'm so intrigued to hear more about this and what the heck it is, especially based on that description.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's probably the best way for somebody who's never heard of EFT like yourself to start to think about this. Because when you think about acupuncture, you go to the acupuncturist. They put these needles into different places along these different meridians, because according to traditional Chinese medicine, we have 14 meridians that run through our body and that are connected to different organs in our body. And they're like the energy transportation channels, if you will. So with acupuncture, you would put a needle in a designated acupoint that then sort of releases that flow of energy that may get stuck in there, off its emotions, right? That get stuck in there. We release that emotion, moves through the body. We can do the same with our fingers. So we can tap on different acupoints that are the endings of these meridians. And a lot of them are on the face, they're on the torso, throughout the body, but it's typically the protocol when we tap is using the points on our face, on our upper body, and it's a form of acupressure. So I'm sure people have heard of acupressure. It's really the same thing. Okay. And so that's what it is. And we can either tap these points gently 5 to 7 times, or we can rub them, massage them like this. And then when we breathe at the same time, take in that deep inner breath through our nose and slowly release through the mouth, what it does, Ken, is that it sends a calming message to our brain, to the limbic system, the emotional center of our brain, and in particular, the amygdala, which is your threat detector that's always looking out for our biological safety. So whether that's exterior to us, we always hear about the lion, metaphor, but, especially our thoughts, those negative thoughts that activate that fight flight. Oh, it's not okay. It's not safe for me to do A. Oh, it's not safe for me to, to get out there, put myself out there, talk on a podcast. It's not safe for me to sell widgets because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And, all these sort of self-defeating beliefs. And when you can, reflect on those thoughts while you tap, you're actually telling your brain, no, it's safe, you're calm. everything's okay. And so it decharges these emotions, and it has, and also it has deactivates the nervous system stress response, fight, flight, or freeze response, so that you can start off with this high emotional intensity of fear or, you know, frustration or anger, whatever it is. And actually you can just feel yourself deflate like a balloon as you tap on these acupoints on the body. So that's it in a nutshell. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so very interesting. So I'm a neophyte in this space. And so I guess my next question is EFT tapping versus acupuncture, do they accomplish similar things, or they accomplish different things, or maybe just in different modalities?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The similarity, or I guess let me just talk about the difference for a minute. Maybe it's easier to understand it, is that with EFT, we often deal with the emotions, so emotional freedom techniques. So it helps us really take the charge out of those emotions that we carry within us, we stuff down. And so we know that when we do that, we put our health at great peril if over the years we're stuffing, and it's sitting there in the tissues and the cells of our body and housed in the nervous system, and it gets in the way of just our sense of well-being. It can impact our immune system when we can't freely release these emotions. And so it is often just a really great way to get at some of these subconscious beliefs that are emotionally based. So if you've had a very traumatic incident in your past where it held a really highly emotional charge, and you've kind of stuffed it back and, you know, think you've forgotten about it, but somehow it keeps appearing in different ways and in different patterns. EFT, or tapping on these points, can help you deactivate that emotional charge of that memory. So as you go through this protocol, and I'm going to explain that maybe in the next segment, because it takes a few minutes, but what you can do, you could have an event that was totally traumatizing. For me, I had a major car accident. I totaled my car. It was a really frightening experience. My daughter was sitting next to me. She got narrowly missed by a car that you know, jackknifed us. And and with the tapping right after, with my high adrenaline, I could tap through that incident, through all the different aspects of the car going through the red light, the opposing car, the rain pouring down, hearing the, you know, the metal on metal impact of the car, all these things. And as I tapped through that, the emotion associated with that just totally came down. And then I could get in my car again the next day. So that's sort of the potency of a tool like this. So I kind of went off topic with your question about the difference between acupuncture and acupressure, but it's really like the emotional aspect that can then have a very positive impact on the physical aspect.
Well, guys, I mean, think about this. If you're beyond the age of, I don't know, 10 years old, probably, you've had some sort of traumatic event in your life, I'm sure. I mean, in all different forms. It could have been a car accident like you. My mother-in-law was in a bad car accident and it was 30 years ago. Actually, more than that, 35 years ago. She still talks about it. Almost every time I get in a vehicle with her, she brings it up. Right. Because she hasn't been able to flush that out. And she gets very nervous in a car. I mean, she travels pretty regularly, but she gets very nervous in a car. So she would be a prime candidate, sounds like, for EFT tapping. So we're talking again, Monique Verpoort. We're going to check out her website, moniqueverpoort.com. We'll put it in the show notes. We're going to come back after the break, and she's going to tell us how to reduce stress and increase productivity.
How would you like to have direct access to Mr. Biz to help you run your business more profitably and more efficiently? At MrBizSolutions.com, you get live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also several of his hand-picked and trusted business experts, each with 20 plus years of experience to help you optimally manage and grow your business. That's just the start of where Mr. Biz Solutions begins. Learn more at MrBizSolutions.com. That's MrBizSolutions.com.
Business owners have a continually growing to-do list with little time for revenue-producing activities. With Check Off Your List and their experienced team of virtual assistants, you can focus on growing your business. Visit checkoffyourlist.com to learn how Check Off Your List skilled team can handle your day-to-day tasks like social media, bookkeeping, calendar maintenance, and much more. Contact Check Off Your List at checkoffyourlist.com or call 888-262-1249 to see how their virtual assistants can help you live to work rather than work to live.
Check out all 3 of Mr. Biz's best-selling books at MrBizBooks.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. And I feel like, Monique, I can be honest with you, I feel like this is the segment that everyone enjoys the most. And if I can tell you why, it's because I pretty much just shut up and let the guests espouse their expertise and give us some tips. And in particular with you, I wanted to talk about, what are some steps we can take to reduce stress? And obviously as a byproduct of that is increasing productivity, because if we're less stressed, we're going to be more mentally focused, have higher mental well-being, et cetera, and be more productive. So what are some things that you could share with us to help us reduce stress, some actions we could take?
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So the first thing is, this is where I'm going to actually tell your audience where these points are located. So if you're listening or watching this, just follow along. So the first point, you could use either finger on either hand, and you can tap. There is the point right where your eyebrows meet. That is our first acupoint that I'd like you just to gently touch. And then you move to the side of the eye. There's a bone right there that you can feel. There's actually an acupoint right on that bone. And then under the eye, you'll feel another bone there. So that's another point. Under the nose, right where the little gullet or whatever you call it is, right under the nose, there's a point there. And then under the lower lip, so on your chin. And then, if you move down where your collarbone is, and if you take your fingers, you run them down to sort of where they meet up here, and you go down about an inch and an inch over, there's a spot there. And if you massage that, often we have, it can be quite sore because we store a lot of the stress in this point right here, as well as in the shoulders and the neck, but that's a point. So if it's sore, you just kind of keep rubbing that to disengage sort of the stuck energy that's there. And then under your armpits, 4 inches are there are points right there. So you can tap one side, you can tap both sides. And then the top of the head, if you kind of curve your fingers, you're hitting both your hemispheres. And there's a lot of meridian endpoints that are in the top of the head there. So that is a protocol. So if you can get used to the strangeness of doing that and just do it in privacy of your own home, whatever, and then you take those breaths at the same time. And on my website, there's a chart with all these points. I just want to say that before I forget. And there's also an instruction sheet people can go to, but I'm just saying that now. So to answer your question, if you can create sort of a daily energy hygiene routine by doing this, what you're doing is over time, you're toning your nervous system. So you're spending more time in your parasympathetic rest and digest system as opposed to your fight, flight, freeze. So, if you can combine it, you have your cup of coffee or your cup of tea in the morning, brushing your teeth, just do a couple, you don't have to spend a lot of time on this, like do a couple of rounds that I just showed you. But it also brings you in the present moment. So it's like a mindfulness technique. It's got like a double benefit, if you will. Mm-hmm. And you just do that, and you can kind of feel your shoulders lower, and it energizes, right? Because you're getting rid of that nervous tension that you carry. And if you do that at night, it's great. Like when you go to bed, just lie in your bed, tap on these points, because you're decompressing your nervous system, so it helps you to fall asleep. And I know myself, and I've heard a lot of people say the quality of their sleep is actually much better. So those are 2 little tips that actually can bring great results. But there's something else that, in terms of the productivity, you are right. In terms of, when you're not stressed out, you have access to your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, your executive functioning. So you can plan, you can problem solve, you can come up with these possibilities that maybe you hadn't seen them before. Because the other benefit to tapping is that you somehow can access your subconscious for these insights that kind of bubble to the surface. It's really uncanny, Ken, like you could tap on something, or even to get an answer to a question, right? If you want some clarity, you have to make a decision, not sure what to do. Okay, I'm just gonna tap and see what comes up. And you kind of just, you're quiet, you tune in, you think about the problem you're trying to solve, and sometimes, boom, you know, you get this insight that just comes to the surface. And I was reading something by Einstein yesterday, who said basically none of the problems he solved was with his thinking brain. It was all, you know, beyond, right? It came from him, you know, from elsewhere. And it's only when we're in sort of that relaxed state that we can actually get these insights. So that's another thing. And then also, I really want to talk about these negative core beliefs that we have that keep us from taking action. And,
Yes.
you know, the key ones are things like, you know, it's not safe for me to fill in the blank. It's not safe. I'll use the example of an author, okay? Because I think this, using my own experience, might be helpful for people to wrap their heads around this. So authors often are very introverted, and so it's one thing to write, but then to actually sell your book and sell yourself. And you know, you're an author, Ken. So,
Yeah.
but for those of us who are like, you know, this could be the most terrifying experience to actually be, you know, showing up, right? So you kind of, if you can start with, it's not safe for me to fill in the blank. So if you have a piece of paper, it's not safe for me to, what is it in getting your business off the ground? What is it making the transition from being an employee to a self-employed person, to selling a book, doing whatever? So that's one. It's not possible for me to. Fill in that blank. What is it not possible for you to? And be honest. You know, if you're scared about, you know, being seen, about other people criticizing you, about you being rejected for making that leap into something different, you know, just consider all those things. And they may be subconscious, so you could actually tap while you're writing out these statements. Another one is, I don't deserve to. What don't you deserve to? Maybe you don't deserve to make a lot of money because maybe your parents, you know, they had a cap and they didn't earn more, and you don't feel there's some kind of loyalty that's subconscious that you have made a vow you're not going to make more money than them. You know, that might be one. Or I don't know who I would be if I fill in the blank. You know, if you're maybe just from, I don't know, maybe people you know, they just don't do the entrepreneurial thing, you know, and here you are, and it's like, how are people going to relate to me? How do I relate to myself with this new identity as being a business owner or, you know, a business person? So these are just little activities, but they can really be very insightful. And once again, if you can, the last thing I want to say, because I know it's a lot of information, but if you can sort of tap on that belief, and you say, you know, it's not possible. So another point that I didn't speak of, but I'm going to add it because I don't want to overwhelm people if they've never heard of this. But if you start on the side of the hand, you could say, major points here, it's not possible for me to be successful, but I accept myself anyway. So it's that experience of acceptance. And you do that 3 times, even though it's not possible for me to be successful. I accept that's how I feel right now. Even though it's not possible for me to be successful, I accept, oh, I'm open to the possibility that maybe I can be. And then you would just tap on those points as you're kind of tuning in mentally to that belief. And if you can measure it before, maybe it's a 10, like you really believe that, and you can't move because there's too much fear. If you can work through that, and then you tune in after you do this for a couple of rounds and you ask yourself, okay, how true is that for me? It's not possible for me to be successful. Did it go down? Maybe it went down 1 or 2 points. Maybe it went down more. So it's just a cool exercise for people to do.
So fantastic information. I have a whole sheet of notes that I was taking. So real quick, we're running out of time here, but how long should you tap on each spot?
About 5 to 7 little taps.
Okay.
Yeah.
5 to 7. And by the way, I would say I might do this while I'm sitting in traffic. I've seen people picking their nose in traffic. For crying out loud, if I could do something productive like this, why wouldn't I, right?
For sure.
Look, Monique, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Fantastic information. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm sure you got a lot out of this show as much as I did, hopefully, with my whole page of notes. Have a fantastic week. And don't forget, as always, Cash flow is king.
To become part of Mr. Biz Nation, follow him on all social media platforms or never miss a show by going to MrBizRadio.com. If you prefer free video content, visit the Mr. Biz YouTube channel or check out his streaming channel, which is available on 100 plus streaming platforms at MrBizNetwork.com.